Hello and welcome back to the third stage of the official World Championship in Through the Ages. It's the second game of the stage. Sadly, as you maybe remember, I only finished at the third place at the first game of the stage. And with that, and with me ideally wanting to win this group, I'm already a little bit under pressure because if I also should not manage to win this game, then I might already be a little bit behind, especially if Mario, who won the first four-player game, also should manage to win this game, then I would already be quite some points behind. So ideally I would like to win this game, and that could already be quite important. And now without further ado, we are gonna take a look at the game, and first of all we take a look at the leaders and wonders, and we can see that in H3 we have some lab synergy with Bill Gates, Steve Jobs and Einstein. There's no spaceflight however, but at least the Manhattan Project and the internet. There is Fleming in Hollywood, but no Marlene Dietrich or Chaplin. Then we also have Mandela, we have for the military Gandhi and Churchill, as well as the Manhattan Project, the Red Cross is there. In H2 we have the Suez Canal, but no James Cook. We have Ocean Liner Service, also Maria is there. We have James Watt. We have Newton and Nobel as two science leaders, not the most culture leaders. Darwin probably can count as a culture leader. And then also two military action leaders with Robespierre and Napoleon. In H1 we have one military action leader with Jan Žižka. There is also Nostradamus to help with the strength. We have Saladin, Gutenberg and Leonardo are there for some lab and printing press synergy. We have Eleanor and also Michelangelo. We have both of the strength wonders with Great Wall Nimichi Castle. We have Forbidden City, but no St. Peter's Basilica. We have the Silk Road, no Universitas. I'm in the last position in this game. Mario is in the first position and he starts with taking the library, which definitely seems like a very good pick for him. Vandal goes for the Acropolis, but doesn't want to have Boudica, instead just takes the Frugality. Frantisek will go for Pyramids, and he will take Boudica now, which I think is quite a nice start for him. And at my turn, I went for Confucius and the Colossus. The Colossus, I mean, there are not that many wonders left. I could, of course, wait for the Colosseum or skip the H1 wonder altogether. But if I want to take one of those three leaders, then I can't do anything else with my last civil action anyway. If I take Cleopatra, I really want to have a wonder. So I think the Colossus should be taken. And it could also be quite nice because there's the Suez Canal. And with that, it could be nice to maybe go for a little bit of a colonization game and have then the option to go for Suez Canal in H2. I could also take one of the other leaders. I don't like Cleopatra too much with the Colossus because it's definitely not easy to gain her value, and also don't neglect building the mine and the lab. So, and there are also only two stages for the Colossus. After this you will need a new wonder or some urban buildings to make more, to get more use out of Cleopatra. And so, no. So I don't like Cleopatra that much together with the Colossus here. Confucius in last position in a 4-player game can always be a little bit dangerous, because there can be some strength events revealed and all of your opponents have an additional turn to prepare for them. But together with the Colossus, I was confident that Confucius, that I hopefully won't have too many problems with Confucius, and then in general I value Confucius a little bit more highly than those two leaders, and with having the Colossus and with that being confident that I hopefully won't get punished for being in last position with Confucius, I just went for him. But I think also going for Aristotle or Hippocrates could be perfectly fine. For Hippocrates there could maybe be Saladin, Nostradamus, or also one of the other leaders as an early replacement. So that could also work. In Aristotle in last position I also definitely don't dislike, so that also could be an option, but at the end I went with Confucius. Mario goes for Cleopatra, and he builds one stage of the library, also can build one mine, so that definitely looks like a nice turn. Vandal will go for Hippocrates, and then increases population, builds a mine. Frantisek will go for Boudica, takes the engineering genius for two civil actions, and he won't build a mine, which is interesting. Maybe he wants to just rush out the pyramids at the next turn. However, I think with Boudica, he maybe should have just built a mine here, because then he could have taken one resource with Boudica at the next turn and still finished the pyramids, getting the mine going now and also being able to finish the pyramids at the next turn. Of course, he wouldn't have a free population then, but I think getting this economical value out of this play would definitely make up for it. And in general, I don't dislike delaying the mine in order to finish the pyramids before, but I mean, maybe he can get some additional resources out of Boudica and maybe it will work out nicely for him. Then it's my turn. I definitely want to elect Confucius. I also want to build a mine, and there is some interesting cards available in the row. There is a Breakthrough, which is nice, and there's also an early Code of Laws. I will have some additional signs with Confucius, and at the end I was willing to take this copy of Code of Laws, and hopefully I will be able to develop it relatively quickly with having the additional signs from Confucius. I don't have a free population, so that's not ideal. I could have, of course, also just increased my population, maybe taking one of those HA yellow cards, but I thought having the ability to get a 5th civil action relatively quickly could be quite nice, and I was willing to take the risk of missing out on the free development of warfare or religion for it. I draw the strategic territory and the heavy cavalry, so the strategic territory could be nice with me having the Colossus, maybe setting up for a colonization game. There's a very early open borders agreement between two of my opponents, Mario and Frantisek, so that's definitely not great to see, because I'm not a part of it, and it's very early, but no, that's just how it is. Mario will build one more stage of the library, making use out of Cleopatra again, and is willing to pay 2 civil actions for the iron. Vandal builds one lab, increases population, and takes the Breakthrough for 2 civil actions. And then Frantisek will finish the pyramids, takes the monarchy, and that's the end of his turn. Together with the pyramids, the monarchy will put him at 6 civil actions, and that could then already be quite nice. At my turn, I want to keep the tactics, so I seed the strategic territory into the deck. The development of crafts is revealed. I increase my population. I build my second lab. I really want to get this lab going. It might give me the option to go for the Code of Laws the next turn with the additional signs that I get from Confucius. And then the question is what to do with my last 2 civil actions. And there are some interesting cards. First of all, I could of course also just increase my population, have a free population for development of religion, for example, and then maybe just take a rich land for 2 additional resources. I think this could be a perfectly fine turn. I could also say that I really want to take one of those military technologies, maybe the knights, as I have the heavy cavalry tactic, and as there is no Genghis Khan in the game, and it's definitely in general quite nice to have a military technology available, so I definitely thought about taking the knights, but there's also quite an early iron. There's still HA cards in a row, so it's still relatively early, and with the additional signs from Confucius I will be able to go for that iron immediately the next turn. There's of course, but there is a downside, and that is that I already have something in hand that where it is nice to invest the signs of Confucius in, meaning that if I go for the iron, I can go for the iron and it will be nice, but it means delaying the Code of Laws, so it comes at a cost. And because of that, I wasn't really sure what is best here. I think maybe just increasing population, taking the rich land could be fine, maybe just taking the knights and having a military technology could be fine. On the other hand, I have the Colossus, so maybe I can be fine without a military technology for a while and can maybe hope to get one for a little bit cheaper later on. So I think there are definitely some different plays possible here, and at the end I went just for taking the iron. As I said, there is the downside that if I go for the iron, I delay the Code of Laws, but still it's an early iron. I can maybe start upgrading my resource production. Up to this point, my opponent didn't really see that much. Maybe I will have a little bit of time until the event deck will be flipped, even though I have Confucius, and so I can maybe set up a little bit of additional resource production before finishing Colossus, before increasing my strength. And with that, I was willing to take the iron, but it didn't feel too great. It's nice to have the early iron, but I paid 2 civil actions for it, and it will mean delaying the Code of Laws. On the other hand, at least I have something nice to invest in, and early iron is definitely quite powerful, and because of that I also went for it at the end, but it might mean that the Code of Laws now will get delayed for quite a bit, but with the additional signs from Confucius, maybe I will be able to go for both in the near future. Mario finishes the library this turn and switches now to Nostradamus. Cleopatra has given him some additional resources. Now he wants to get some knowledge about the event deck and maybe also some culture when he starts seeding at the next turn. To get out of corruption, he has to build a warrior. Vandal seeds. The development of warfare is revealed. I don't have a free population, so I can't take advantage of that, but it also would have been the case if I would have increased my population, unless there will be a development revealed where I get an additional population. Otherwise, I would have an uprising issue if I would have taken the free warrior. Vandal is willing to take the knights for 2 civil action, maybe already has a tactic for it, and then he just finishes the Acropolis. Lfrantisek seeds, and the development of science is revealed. That might help me to get iron and code of laws out quickly. Lfrantisek is willing to take the alchemy for 2 civil actions, develops it, upgrades 1 time, and then takes the bread and circuses. The rich land maybe also could have been interesting, with still needing to build a 3rd mine at some point, but the bread and circuses is maybe also fine. I mean, there's no Pierre, there's at least Darwin, so I'm not really sure if it is worth it to take the bread and circuses over rich land. Maybe also swordsman could be more interesting, but I mean, having a happy face solution in hand is also not too bad. At my turn I can seed, and after taking the iron I have drawn the new deposit, so I got a little bit rewarded for my choice, and with that I seeded the new deposits into the deck. There is of course the danger that it will be revealed a little bit too early before I fully upgraded my iron mines, but I still wanted to see this instead of seeding one of those tactics, because both of those tactics could still work potentially. The development of settlement is revealed, and so now if I would have had increased my population at the turn before, I could have taken the free warrior, but it's also not too bad to miss out on it, and at least I have the iron now and can start upgrading to it. It means that I will stay the weakest, which is a little bit of a problem. It could definitely be that the event deck will be flipped before my next turn, but I could have of course also gone for swordsman first, but I wanted to get this production going, especially with new deposits coming now. And at the next turn I will have enough resource to finish the Colossus, and after increasing my population to get out of corruption, I will take the swordsman. I have the fighting band in hand, and with that I maybe can also increase my strength with going for the swordsman. I could have also thought about just taking the breakthrough, that like this I can then maybe finish the Colossus at the next turn to get more strength, and then I have the breakthrough, meaning at the next turn, with having Confucius I will be at 6 science. I could maybe develop the Code of Laws, and thanks to the breakthrough still have a reasonable amount of science after that, so that I can maybe go for swordsman or knights at one of the following turns, so that could maybe give me a little bit of an economical advantage, but it's also always dangerous to not have a military technology available. I have now the chance to take the swordsman for 1 civil action. Making the heavy cavalry work will maybe be relatively difficult anyway, so I might have to work with the fighting band tactic, and after this copy of swordsman there's only 1 left, and I don't know when it will be available. The deck will be flipped. I want to have a way to increase my strength, and with that I was willing to not take the breakthrough, but it could have been an alternative, and if I get rewarded and get a military technology in the next turns, then maybe it could have worked out better. Like this I probably, if I want to go for swordsman first, can't go for Code of Laws in the next turns, but at least I have the swordsman and I have a way how I can increase my strength. I draw 2 cards, a raid and a border conflict. Maybe I don't want to commit to the border conflict, and maybe seeding the raid could be best. Mario seeds, and the development of markets is revealed. He will also go for iron now, can go for 2 upgrades immediately, and he will take the breakthrough. It's definitely quite a strong card for him. Vandal will also seed, so sadly the event deck will flip now. The development of religion is revealed. Now I have a free population, so I can take the free religion. Vandal will increase his population. He will build 1 knight, takes the irrigation and the urban growth, but he doesn't reveal a tactic yet, so maybe he has none, but still, even without a tactic, he is the strongest now. Lfrantisek will take the free religion. He has 2 additional resources available from Boudica for the military. He will switch to Leonardo. I mean, he has 1 alchemy after all, and then he will use the 2 additional resources for an additional warrior, and also takes the Great Wall. With having 3 warriors already, the Great Wall will definitely give him a nice amount of additional strength, but he also still hasn't built a 3rd mine, so investing 9 resources into the Great Wall will also be a bit of an investment, but it could definitely still be worth it, and especially with having that many warriors. And also maybe with not knowing when there will be a military technology available. At my turn I can seed, and as said, I don't really want to commit to to the border conflict, but I still wanted to seed with Confucius, even though I'm the weakest. Of course I could get punished, but I myself didn't seed any strength events in there, and with that I just wanted to get the additional science out of Confucius. I seeded the heavy cavalry tactic, because this turn I will go for Yanchishka, I will go for the swordsman with the fighting band tactic, so that the heavy cavalry is probably something that I won't need for certain. Well, there's maybe a chance that with going for Yanchishka I can make use out of the raid, so I seeded the heavy cavalry tactic into the deck. And the historic territory is revealed. Sadly, it's revealed before I finish the Colossus, and I also have no colonization card in hand, so I can't really bid a lot for it. And lfrantisek wins it at the end. At least he has to pay quite a lot for it, so he has to send 3 colonization cards away for the historic territory, so that's definitely a bit of a price, but with the Suez Canal, it definitely might be worth it. So I go for Yanchishka this turn. I could also wait for a different leader, but I kinda want to get more strength anyway. I have the fighting band tactic for him, and also if I don't take him and maybe Vandal takes him and maybe he has the medieval army tactic available, then it could also get quite dangerous for myself relatively quickly. Vandal could maybe go up to 10 strength or something like this, and yeah, that's definitely could end up being dangerous, and so I rather wanted to have Yanchishka for myself. I took him, elected him, and I went for the swordsman, built one, revealed the tactic, and then I upgraded one more mine, so I'm at 5 strength now, I'm the strongest. I get 2 tactics with Yanchishka. Upgrading the mine means that I can't finish the Colossus at the next turn, but there's first of all the chance that the new deposits will be revealed and I could finish it. And even if I can't finish it, I was still hoping that in 2 turns the age still won't have ended, so I might still have a chance to finish the Colossus then. And even if I should lose it at the end, it's maybe also not the end of the world. I think I would still prefer it if I can finish it, especially because I have some additional resource production and there will be new deposits. But if I lose it, maybe I can more easily take a nice wonder like Ocean Liner Service or Harvard College, so that also wouldn't be the end of the world because I didn't invest anything into it yet apart from taking it at the beginning. Then I draw 1 card, the Knowledge of the Ancients. Mario seeds, and the immigration is revealed, and now we can see that this historic territory actually was quite nice for lfrantisek, because he has 2 happy faces thanks to it now, and all of the other players have 1 happy face, though Mario had 0 happy faces when he seeded. He just got a 1 with taking the development of religion, but 2 of lfrantisek opponents had 1 happy face, so without historic territory, and maybe then one of us, one of me and Vandal, would have won it, then no. lfrantisek would have gotten a free population, and now he's the only one who gets a free population. So with that historically, I think definitely was worth it for him. Mario will go for the Magic Castle. He also has iron mines going, and he will have some additional resource available. So the Magic Castle might be a nice way to invest those resources. And then he upgrades his last mine, increases his population, reveals the Legion tactic. Vandal seeds, and the strategic territory is revealed. It was seeded by me. Sadly, I still don't have a colonization card, and I still don't have finished the Colossus. So, so far I sadly wasn't really able to bid a lot for those colonies. Vandal wins it for 1 knight and 1 colonization card. He rebuilds the knight, is now at 6 strength, goes for irrigation, reveals the medieval army tactic now. Maybe he's drawn it with the strategic territory, and then he goes for an upgrade to irrigation, takes the rich land and the reserves. lfrantisek will go for monarchy, gets an additional resource with Leonardo thanks to that, rebuilds the warrior that he sent away for the historic territory, builds 1 stage of the Great Wall, takes the cartography, has already won a colony, and with the Suez Canal that definitely might be nice, being able to go for cartography and maybe having the chance to win even more colonies. He is relatively low in strength, but thanks to his many military actions he shouldn't be in any danger of an aggression, but he delays the mine even longer, so maybe that could be an issue. At least he is getting some additional resources out of Leonardo. I am one of the 2 weakest at my turn. Also the new deposits, if those would be revealed, of course I could finish the Colossus then, but now with 13 cards in the deck it should be very very likely that I will get another turn in H1. The colonies that I seeded are already out, and so I thought I rather want to get this upgrade in to maybe even get more value out of the new deposits. Then I still have to get out of corruption, and I do this with increasing my population. I also upgrade one warrior to swordsman so that I'm maybe one of the two strongest. Maybe there could be foray. I mean, otherwise for other events, the strength from Nostradamus might help, but it could still make a little bit of a difference, and so I was willing to do this upgrade. Now I also take the alchemy. Could maybe also think about taking some other stuff, but there's not a there are not the most interesting things on the row. And now with my last civil action, also not the most stuff available. I could take the frugality, but unless there's something like Good Harvest revealed, it will mostly mean that I will just be stuck at some food after I will lose the 2 yellow tokens. It won't give me an additional population immediately, so I didn't really want to go for the frugality, and so I just developed the alchemy. I think that will be nice. First of all, there could potentially be Dark Ages. I mean, in some recent games I didn't have the nicest experiences with Dark Ages, so maybe it could be nice to prepare for that, but that was not the main reason to develop it. First of all, one big reason is of course that I don't have great alternatives to use my civil actions, and I was hoping that the new deposits will be revealed before my next turn, and I will have 13 resources, and I have enough resources to finish the Colossus and go for 2 upgrades to Alchemy, but I can only do this if I develop the Alchemy already this turn, because then I can use all of my 4 civil actions to just do this, and I thought it could be quite strong, upgrading both of all the Alchemies, finishing the Colossus, and with that I was willing to develop the Alchemy already this turn. Then I draw 2 cards, and I draw another raid and another fighting band tactic. Mario Seeds, sadly no new deposits revealed yet, and a Good Harvest is revealed, so now the frugality maybe could have been nice, but it's maybe also not too bad to not have taken it. Mario will finish the Magic Castle, so now it's 7 strength. He will also take a copy of Alchemy, and he also takes the Bread and Circuses. Vandal Seeds, and the raiders are revealed, so sadly I will lose a little bit of stuff. Maybe I can just lose the food. Now with the Good Harvest and without a frugality, the food might just be lying around, so it's maybe not too bad just losing a bit of food. And also there's only one event left now, it's the new deposits, meaning that if I see it, I can make sure that those are revealed before my turn. Vandal replaces Hippocrates. It took him quite a while, didn't find a nice leader before. He goes for Eleanor. There could also have been Saladin, but now it's already quite late, and Eleanor is a relatively nice transition leader. So definitely, I think it's a nice decision to take her now that she is available for one less civil action. Interestingly, Vandal doesn't go for the monarchy. He has the Acropolis, so he could have gone for it quite cheaply, and the additional military action might also be quite nice with Eleanor. So maybe I would prefer that over taking the rich land, for example, but maybe Raider wants to wait for an H2 government. Lfrantisek adopts the Legion tactic, is now at 5 strength, uses his military actions while still being in H1. He takes Urban Growth, the Patriotism, Engineering Genius, just in general quite a bunch of resources, and to get out of corruption he will build an additional mine, and interestingly also an additional farm. It's interesting, but the 1 additional food will make a difference immediately, because the next turn now with 4 food he will have it just exactly enough to increase his population, and with that it's definitely not bad to have built his farm. Otherwise he might be stuck at 3 food. Like this he will get an additional population, and it also makes it that he gets out of corruption, and at the next turn he can maybe finish the Great Wall then. My turn, I want to see it. I don't want to commit to the border conflict. I wasn't confident that I will be the strongest because I won't have the most population available, and so I see the knowledge of the ancients. I also wasn't too happy about this event because now with going for the alchemies I will have a little bit of science production, and there are some other players who have 2 wonders available and who also need some science, but I just wanted to open those new deposits. Those will just give me a very nice boost. Again, 6 additional resources, and now I can just do what I said at the last turn. I can just finish the Colossus and go for those 2 alchemy upgrades. I think I don't really need any of those cards. I mean, Theology maybe could be nice to have the option to get to put 1 more worker into the military. Irrigation, with having already upgraded those 2 things, I don't like that too much. There will be 3 copies of Selective Breeding and an Ocean Liner service, and so I think it's just fine finishing Colossus, going for those 2 alchemy upgrades, and with that I was relatively happy about my position. I have only 4 civil actions, but at least I have the Code of Laws in hand to maybe help with that, and in general I was relatively happy about my position. It's not that I have a really great position, but I have upgraded all of my iron mines and those 2 alchemies, and there will be some strong H2 wonders, so maybe I can invest my resources into ocean liner service, Harvard College if I win a colony, maybe Suez Canal, also statue. So with that I thought I maybe will be able to transition my position into something nice. I draw the phalanx tactic, so if I get knights, maybe I can consider making the transition into this tactic, and certain borders are revealed. Sadly, I'm missing one strength to be the strongest, and so Vandal will get the additional yellow token, but at least I'm not the weakest. Mario also will go for alchemy now, builds one directly, upgrades the other one, is now at 5 science production thanks to the library. Also, he has already produced quite a lot of culture with having Nostradamus. Now H2 starts, and I will get some additional draws thanks to the Colossus, and also Vandal will get some additional draws, so some very early H2 draws here, and the draws that I got, I was relatively happy about them, because of the classic army tactic, and with that I have a nice tactic that I can go for, just need either knights or cavalrymen, and those two events could maybe also be fine, but I mostly was happy because of the tactic. Vandal seeds and a wealthy territory is revealed, and this time I am actually able to win it. It's the question if I will even need it, because I have not the most population and I have strong resource production already, but I was willing to bid one swordsman in my card for it, because there is a Suez Canal, and yeah, and now if I draw an H2 colony, the Suez Canal might already be a very fine wonder for me. So I send one swordsman away. Vandal will go for an upgrade to irrigation, takes the theology, develops the theology, builds one more knight, also one more warrior, and then upgrades his temple to theology. Is now at 30 in strength, so maybe there are some strength events coming. Lfrantisek will go for finishing the Great Wall, is now at 8 strength, meaning I will be the weakest at my turn. He also develops the Code of Laws, is now at 7 civil actions, so with those he might be able to do a bunch of stuff. And he also builds an additional lab, meaning that he can get some more science production and so to develop maybe more technologies, get more value out of Leonardo, maybe have enough science to go for coal relatively soon. In my turn I don't want to seed, I'm the weakest, and I will at least get a little bit stronger, though I might not be able to really get a lot stronger, sadly. I can increase my population, and now I'm stuck at 1 food, but that's not too bad. Yeah, but I mean, in general, getting some more population could be nice. I rebuild a swordsman, sadly that still means that I'm the weakest, and then I just take a constitutional monarchy for 3 civil actions that's available really early. Mario has a lot of science, and also there is one Confucius event, and the knowledge of the ancients in this deck, so there's a chance that he would get this additional science and can go for the common immediately. And the same is true for me, I will be at 11 science, but if there is either the Confucius event revealed or the knowledge of the ancients, I can develop the constitutional monarchy at the next turn. If not, I can maybe also consider doing a revolution. I will have corruption, but it could maybe still be fine. And yeah, and so I was just willing to pay the 3 civil actions for the constitutional monarchy, because I really need a government form, I really need more civil actions, and being able to get this common this early will be quite nice for me. I keep all of the H2 cards, I will also draw the iconoclasm and the economic progress. Mario seeds and a cultural influence is revealed, so no additional science yet. Mario gets the most culture out of it, I the second most, but overall it's just very close and doesn't change too much. Mario will go for one Breton circuses. Maybe that could mean that a happy face related event is coming, like rebellion, immigration is already out, and then he takes the wave of nationalism. Vandal opens the scientific breakthrough, so now there is some additional science to be gained. Lfrantisek and Mario both gain 5 science out of it, I at least 4, Vandal only 2. And he will go for the iron. It's relatively late iron, but he can get it for certain, and he maybe does know when he will get the coal. If he wouldn't take the iron, he would maybe have to fight over the coal with Lfrantisek, unless Lfrantisek would have gone for the iron. And there is an early coal available, that might be good news for Lfrantisek, who's the only one without iron. But first of all, he will go for swordsman, he will make sure that he isn't the weakest, so that means that I will stay the weakest also at my turn when I would win the tiebreaker. Lfrantisek takes the efficient upgrade, with that probably already eyeing the coal, and is willing to take the cannons for 3 civil actions. He has the Great Wall, who knows, maybe he has already drawn a nice tactic like defensive army, and with that he is willing to take it for 3. Maybe he also just didn't have too much to do. I mean, he could have taken some more yellow cards, but having the cannons for certain with having the Great Wall is definitely not bad. Now that there is even another event, the scientific breakthrough, which gave some additional science, and there are still 2 more events that give science to come. I think it's definitely the best to just develop the common instead of doing the revolution. And now, after this I have some civil actions left, and one card that I really wanted to take are those knights. Frantisek has no knights available, Vandal has knights, Mario has also no knights. If he doesn't take the knights, then there could be quite some contenders for the cavalryman, and I have the classic army tactic, and I just wanted to make sure that I can go for this tactic for certain, so I really wanted to take those knights. I could now maybe just take 2 out of those H2 yellow cards, maybe also consider the organized religion, as I will need a happy face solution at some point, and so that's something that I could consider. But I wanted to also really have this architecture. Why do I want to have this architecture? As I said, there are some very interesting wonders, and this architecture might just allow me to finish one quicker. For example, if there would be Harvard College in the 3 civil action area, it would cost me 4 civil actions to take it. Without the architecture I couldn't finish it, but now with having the architecture in hand, I can develop the architecture and finish the Harvard College with 1 civil action. So even if the Harvard College is in this area, I could just take and finish it, giving me a big boost. The same is also true for the other wonders like Ocean Liner Service, or in case I should draw a nice colony, Suez Canal. I can't finish those immediately if those aren't 3, but maybe if one of those falls down to 2 civil actions, then also the architecture could make a difference between being able to finish them immediately or not. Also in the long run, the architecture is just a nice technology to have. Maybe I don't have the most science to afford it, but I still have some science. I have my government form now, and I really wanted to have this, as this might just allow me to snowball with finishing one of those wonders earlier. When I take the architecture, then I don't have enough civil actions to take 2 out of those yellow cards, but I can take the cultural heritage and then at least still take one of those cards. And all of those 3 yellow cards and also the organized religion could be considered, but I thought with more happy face solutions to come, maybe I rather wanted to have one of those yellow cards. Revolutionary idea could be nice. I still have the code of laws, and maybe with that I can develop it, and being at 7 civil actions is of course even better than being at 6. Maybe also allowing me to take and finish an ocean liner service when it is on 3 civil actions or on the 3 civil action area. There's also the urban growth, which could maybe be nice to save some resource, but I thought that's probably the worst one for me because I have a lot of resources anyway. But the reserves is also very nice for me, not because of the resources, but because getting 3 food is just enough to get 1 more population out, and I'm really low in population at the moment. So being able to do this could be quite important, and because of that I went for the reserves at the end. But the revolutionary idea was definitely also a card that I considered, but at the end I valued it more to be able to get 1 more population out. I was a little bit afraid of reds, which is funny because I have only 1 food, but with the reds revealed I couldn't. I increased my population, but just because of that I didn't want to skip the reserves, and I still took it. I can keep all of my cards in hand, and I draw some new ones: a colonization card, freedom of movement, and independence declaration. Mario Seeds and the knowledge of the ancients are revealed, so even more science for some players, or for all of the players. Mario goes for the navigation. It's always interesting to see the Nostradamus player go for navigation, because that definitely could mean that there are some colonies coming. Vandal doesn't see it. Maybe he doesn't have an event for Eleanor, or maybe he is afraid of something, but probably he just doesn't have a nice event that he wants to see it. He goes for 2 more iron upgrades and increases his population and takes this urban growth. Frantisek seeds and the heavy cavalry is revealed. All players gain 1 science. And this turn he can go for the coal. He gets a relatively early coal, can upgrade his his resource production, will go for Nobel as a replacement for Leonardo, and then he starts upgrading his mines, and that's definitely quite strong. He's now at 6 science production, will be able to upgrade his mines, maybe also be able to go for selective breeding or the ocean liner service, and with also having a bunch of civil actions, he definitely might be able to transition into a nice position. At my turn, I was really hoping that maybe there is one of those wonders available. There's no wonder available, but at least a selective breeding, and I thought I want to go into the selective breeding immediately. It first of all allows me to get out of corruption, and I just really want to have some additional food production, so I go for selective breeding, I go for 2 upgrades, now I don't have corruption, and hopefully I will be able to increase my population at the next turn. And thanks to the architecture and having a bunch of resources, I might still be able to just take and finish a wonder if one should be available on the row. I don't take any of those military technologies, which is a little bit bad, but on the other hand I have the classic army tactic in hand and already have the knights in hand, so it's maybe not too important to take one of those, maybe in the long run, and also with my resources the cavalryman might be preferable over the knights, but no, it's also not too bad to skip those when I can get my farms upgraded like this, so I was willing to not take any of those military techs. I draw 3 cards. It's the defensive army tactic. That's interesting, meaning that Frantisek with having the Great Wall doesn't have it, and maybe I also don't want to reveal it to him, but it's also still an alternative for myself. Maybe if I get a copy of cannons, I could consider going for this instead of the classic army, though of course it would mean that I give a very nice tactic to Frantisek. Mario really wants to have those riflemen, he is just sitting on a bunch of warriors, now he can upgrade those and make sure that he's the strongest. Maybe that could mean that there are some strength events coming, maybe he just wants to get out of corruption, but actually even with upgrading all of those he still has corruption. And he's just waiting for a government form, so he definitely also would have liked it a lot to get an early constitutional monarchy. Sadly for him, there is no second government form revealed yet, but he has a bunch of signs, so if one is available at the next turn in the row, he is able to go for it immediately. And there is also actually one available. Interestingly, it's not taken by Vandal, who could develop it for cheaper with the Acropolis. Instead, he rather wants to upgrade his science production and can go for 1 upgrade. Doesn't go for 2nd upgrade, instead rather wants to grab this copy of cannons, and at the next turn maybe he can go for government form, but yeah, and going for the Conmon could have been maybe also nice, but it's also not bad getting the science production going, and there is still 1 copy of Conmon, 2 copies of Republic. Conmon probably will be taken away by Mario, so he could maybe have some issues with the military actions, but maybe he will be able to manage with going for Napoleon or maybe even Robespierre. Frantisek seats, and a pestilence is revealed. I have a free population, so it's not too bad for me. And I think Frantisek had to lose something, yes, he had to lose an HA mine, so that's not ideal for him. He upgrades the 2nd mine, develops the warfare, is now at 14 strength, one of the 2 strongest, also develops the cartography, he has a lot of science, so he can invest into this, takes the selective breeding, the breakthrough, and a patriotism, and with taking that many cards he will allow a nice option for me, because now the ocean liner service will fall down to into 2 civil action area, which could allow me to just take and finish it at my turn. And as you can see, I also take the ocean liner service, and it mainly was a question for me. I mean, I could just do a normal turn, increase my population, but it didn't feel too great. Maybe take team sports, take some of those military techs, develop code of laws or something like this. But it didn't feel too great, and I thought finishing a wonder should be best. The question is, which wonder should I finish and go for? There's the ocean liner service, but there's also the Harvard College. Both wonders I could take, develop the architecture and finish them immediately to invest my resource, get out of corruption and get a nice boost to my economy. My first instinct was to go for the Harvard College, because I have now already upgraded those selective breedings. I still have quite some yellow tokens in my yellow bank, so I brought, and with only being a 2 alchemies, the science production is maybe more needed than even having even more population with the ocean liner service, so my first instinct was to go for the Harvard College, but I actually ended up going for the ocean liner service instead, and the reason for that is the synergies that are in the game. I still need an H2 leader, and with having the ocean liner service on top of my many food production, Maria will just be an awesome leader for me. She might be able to give me a lot of value, so of course it's not guaranteed yet that I will get her, but I was hoping that there might be a chance, and that I then the ocean liner service basically also would produce me a little bit of additional science, and so that's one reason. Another reason is that there is also the Red Cross, so I can get a bunch of population with the Ocean Liner service, maybe still save a little bit of food, and then I can maybe just go for the Red Cross. I have the architecture that might also help me to just take and finish it, so that's another reason why I think the Ocean Liner service could be nice. And also, in both cases, when I take and finish the Wonder, I won't have a free civil action to take those one of those two military technologies. And those will actually be the last one. After that, there's only one copy of Rifleman left. As I said, I have the Knights, so I definitely will be able to manage. But with being at Swordsman and Knights, it might be important to have a lot of population going, because otherwise it might not be enough. Especially because I will not be easily able to transition into an H3 tactic. So because of the fact that I will have some very cheap units, I thought it could be very important to have a lot of population so that I can maybe relatively easily go for 2 classic armies and then maybe some air forces on top, because if I'm at Harvard College, of course I have some decent food production with the selective breeding, but being able to go for 2 classic armies might still be a little bit of an issue, and especially if I don't get air force, I could get a little bit into trouble. And so because of all of those reasons, I thought that the Ocean Liner service might be preferable for me over the Harvard College, and so I went for that. I developed the architecture and I just finished it immediately, getting one population out immediately, and I really will have a lot of population available with having a relatively nice yellow bank, a lot of food production, and now also the Ocean Liner service on top. So I was really hoping that I might be able to get Maria, because then I could really get a lot of value out of her. But even if not, hopefully I will be able to invest the population, especially with having those cheap units. The next turn I will still have time to develop the Knights, and then I will be able to go for the classic army tactic. So with that, and with missing out on the last copy of cannons, I also discarded the defensive army tactic and kept the colonization cards. Now I draw the developed territory, arms industry, and civil unrest. Now I also have a colony. Maybe the Suez Canal could still be an option, but maybe I also have a lot of other things to do, or maybe it's not really worth it. There's a colony revealed, a vast territory. I'm quite behind in strength, and if I win the colony, I would be in danger of getting hit by an aggression. I didn't want to be in that danger, and also I don't really need even more yellow tokens and food, so I just passed in the colony. Mario has the navigation, but Vandal is at the end actually able to win it for 1 knight and 3 colonization cards, so the additional draws from Eleanor might have helped him to win this colony, and now he gets this vast territory for quite cheap. Mario finally gets his government form, can go for the constitutional monarchy, will also take the cannons, takes James Watt. I mean, he will need a new leader at some point, could maybe wait for one of the other ones, but I think James Watt is a nice choice, because he will elect him really at the end of age 2, can maybe get a little bit of a discount when going for selective breeding, and ideally maybe replace him relatively quickly, use him as a nice transition leader. He gets him now for one civil action, so I like this decision by Mario, and then he plays the revolutionary idea with his last civil action. Vandal doesn't see it, he goes for the Republic, develops it. Maybe he could have also thought about going for Robespierre. Of course, he has the Acropolis, so it might feel a little bit awkward. And maybe he also wants to rebuild some his unit. Maybe he is otherwise in danger of an aggression, especially after having sent a lot of colonization cards. So maybe that already might make it worth it to not go for Robespierre. But, I mean, if he doesn't go for a new leader now, he risks missing out on additional civil action from Eleanor, and even if he has the Acropolis, he would still save some science, but probably would be in danger of an aggression, and with that, it's maybe better to not go for it with Robespierre. Then he rebuilds a knight. Now he is at a reasonable amount of strength again. He even builds another knight. Maybe he doesn't want to be at the risk that Mario sacrifices with the Meiji Castle. And then he plays the reserves and even upgrades one more lab. And he interestingly doesn't take the strategy. And I'm really not sure if that is the correct decision. Because being stuck at 2 military action can be quite dangerous. Maybe he is thinking that he will just go for Napoleon or Robespierre, and it might of course be a reason. Maybe he can wait for military theory then, but it could still be quite nice for him to have the strategy available. Lfrantisek succeeds. Sadly, the fray is revealed. I will probably get a bit stronger at my next turn, but I mean, I was now the weakest for quite a while, so I have to expect that I won't be part of a bunch of strength events. and Mario and Frantisek will gain some additional food and resource out of it. Frantisek will increase his population 2 times, can do this thanks to the frugality. He will go for the selective breeding, also develops the bread and circuses before he loses that to the end of the age. Builds 1 has now a bunch of happy faces. Maybe that could mean that there is a rebellion coming. There is one H2 events, one H1 event still on top. Maybe it is a rebellion, so there was no event seeded by Frantisek from those, so it would only be a guess by him. So he definitely seen it, definitely did not see that. And then he takes the fission upgrade, can maybe use it nicely for his further farm upgrades. And I was really happy that Maria was revealed. There was only 1 card revealed before my turn. After Frantisek's turn, I was a little bit annoyed that, I mean, if Maria would have already been revealed on Vandal's turn, maybe he would have gone for her. So that's definitely a lucky timing. Now I can go for her for certain, and even though Frantisek did really reveal only very few cards, Maria is revealed, and I was quite happy about it. And I also took her immediately. Of course, maybe there's the chance that Vandal Raider wants to have a leader that gives him additional military action. But he has also some decent food production and especially a decent yellow bank. So he definitely could get some use out of Maria. And I didn't want to risk missing out on her because she can really give me a lot of value over the next turns. I used the military action of Jan Žižka to reveal the classic army tactic. Will elect Maria. Increase my population 1 time normally, 1 time with the ocean liner service. I developed a code of laws. Of course, it's relatively late, but it's still nicer to be at 7 than at 6 civil actions going into H3. Also, I earlier talked about the Red Cross, and being able to take and finish the Red Cross is also a lot more likely with having this 1 additional civil action. And I have now a little bit of additional science production thanks to Maria, so I was willing to develop this code of laws. It will come at the cost of taking the strategy, which is definitely a bit of a downside, because now I definitely need to also develop the knights, and for that I have to play the cultural heritage. I have to develop the knights. I build 1 and I build even another 1, so I'm now at 18 strength. I'm one of the 2 strongest, and so that is quite nice. Of course, I could have not developed a code of laws, maybe taken the strategy, but I rather wanted to have this additional civil action, and there is the chance that I will get a military theory maybe in time. So, yeah, I just thought this additional civil action could be quite valuable going into H3. Of course, the strategy could be valuable as well, but maybe I have other ways, and with the common at least I have 4 military actions, so I also have a fine amount of military action without having the strategy. I draw 2 cards, another colonization card, so maybe now if there's a colony coming I have a chance to win it. Mario seeds, and there is indeed sadly the rebellion, so I lose 2 civil actions, and that's of course not great, but at least I have 7 civil actions now, so maybe I will be able to manage. Mario will increase his population, goes for James Watt, takes the strategy, develops the strategy, builds 1 rifleman, is now 22 strength. At least that means that I will get 3 additional resources out of Maria at my next turn, and then he goes for selective breeding, can upgrade it for cheaper thanks to James Watt, and it still allows him to get out of corruption. Vandal just manages to still replace Eleanor. There are only 4 cards left. Interestingly, he doesn't go for Newton. Of course, Newton would be more expensive, but it would also be nice with the scientific methods, but probably just wants to have this additional military action now from Robespierre. And of course, now maybe it could have been nice to have the strategy, then that he could go for Newton, but maybe it is indeed now more important to go for the military action. Maybe he was hoping for Napoleon, but of course Robespierre is now really not the ideal leader for him, with already having a government form and also with having the Acropolis, which is a little bit of anti-synergy with Robespierre. And then he also goes for the rifleman, upgrades 1, increases population, builds another theology, and is now at 20 strength, so I am now the weakest. H3 starts, and Frantisek will upgrade 2nd farm, destroys his 3rd farm, and goes for 1 cannon. plays the patriotism, can build one cannon now, is now the strongest again. Maybe he's expecting a strength event, and he also indeed seeded one of those two events, so that could definitely mean that there is a strength event coming. Then he takes the architecture, sadly also the organized religion, and that definitely could have some bad consequences for me, because yeah, I don't have a happy face solution yet, and I definitely need one on the organized religion. Will be the last one from H2, so that could maybe be also a hate draft by lfrantisek, because he himself already has the Breton circuses. Of course, maybe there are still some situations where it could be nice to just upgrade a religion, getting happy faces without needing to commit another worker into Breton circuses, but it could definitely be at least partly a hate draft here, and it definitely might be the right choice for him, because it would make things a lot easier for me. Then it's my turn. And at my turn, in order to fix my happy face issues, there will be no pro spots revealed. I first thought that I maybe just want to take and finish the Statue of Liberty. I can do it thanks to the architecture. So that was my plan for the turn, just to help a little bit with my happy face issues. I could also just increase my population a bunch of times to not have an uprising, but then I don't really have any free workers for my military. So the Statue of Liberty was what I thought, what I wanted to do about a turn. I thought maybe I will just go for it. But then I made a decision to seed, which is a little bit risky, because lfrantisek has increased his strength, has seeded one of those events, so it's definitely looking like there could be a strength event coming. But there could also be maybe a colony coming, because lfrantisek also has an additional colonization force. Mario went for this navigation. I'm not sure if he went for it after there were already those two events seeded. Maybe that's not the case. So I thought there might also be a colony coming, and maybe this colony could also help me. And I have a lot of colonization cards, and I might have the best chances to win a colony at my turn, because after my turn maybe I will build an additional unit, but I can't bid as much because I will be at the danger of an aggression. And at the end, with having, for example, civil unrest in my hands, I don't have to be afraid of that. I also don't have to be afraid of politics of strength. Of course, there could be some bad strength events, but for example, refugees, which of course would be bad, and I wouldn't like it to get hit by it, but at least I will have a lot of population, so losing one to the refugees might not be the end of the world. And so I made a decision to see the impact of Wanderson, which is a relatively neutral impact. It's nice against Vandal. A little bit better for Maria and lfrantisek, but with getting the culture for seeding it, it will still be better for me. And so I seeded this one into the deck. And I get rewarded, and there is indeed a colony revealed, and I was willing to bid quite a lot for it, because it could help me to a lot with my happy face issues. It will work very nicely with Maria. I maybe can even get more value out of her, and I also don't need to go for the statue. Going for the statue was not too bad, but it might still be better to maybe just get a vast territory to fix my happy faces, especially if I don't have to pay too much to it. And indeed, with having all of those colonization cards, I am able to win this colony for just one night, and no, that's definitely quite nice and helps me a lot in this situation. So I can increase my population. I increase it 2 times normally when it costs fewer food, and then 1 time with the ocean liner service, getting a lot of value out of Maria. And then of course I want to rebuild some military. I rebuild this one a knight, and then to get out of corruption I also build 2 swordsmen. That will also make sure that I'm not the weakest, because as I said, maybe there could be a strength event, and now that the vast territory is out, maybe I can still prepare for this potential strength event that is coming. So to get out of corruption, also to get stronger, I did build those 2 swordsmen. Sadly, it means I will only get 1 draw, but that's a price that I have to pay, because I wanted to have 3 civil actions left in order to get the military theory. Now, with Maria I will have some military potential, and the military theory might maybe allow me to go for a little bit of an aggressive play. Maybe I will also get air forces, and also if I don't take the military theory, then Vandal, who still really probably wants to have another source of military actions, especially for the time after Robespierre, would get this copy of military theory, so it also will deny one of my opponents an important card, but it also is just very nice for me. Also thought about reserves, maybe opera, so sadly there is no Marlene or Chaplin. With those leaders in the game, I would maybe consider Opera more, because then I could maybe use it as a happy face solution, as I don't know when I will get any bro sports, but only Steve Jobs is available as a leader that gives happy faces. And so I thought the military theory might be best, but if I want to take it in order to get out of corruption, I have to build those two swordsmen, but as I said, those might also help me preventing getting hit by a big strength event. I draw one card, it's the loss of sovereignty. Mario offers the international trade agreement to Vandal, getting himself one additional resource production, while Vandal gets an additional food reduction. He develops the cavalryman, destroys an H1 mine, that's very interesting, but he also takes the oil, upgrades one more farm, and then he will disband 2 riflemen to build 2 cavalrymen and to copy the classic army tactics. So he really disbanded a lot at his turn. He disbanded 2 riflemen and 1 iron mine. It cost a total of 15 resources. But I mean, he is the strongest now. He had Nostradamus, so that's now really looking like the last event on top could be a strength event. And with the oil, maybe he can still go for a reasonable amount of resource production, even after having deleted his mine. The next turn he can maybe go for it. Of course, it could have been maybe also nice to just go for oil immediately, but he had also some uprising issue that he needed to fix, so that maybe wasn't easily possible anyway. And depending on what strength event is on top, it might definitely be worth it to just get stronger. And like this, he also has a tactic going, so it costs him a lot of draws. I'm not sure if it is the most efficient play, but I think it might be fine. Then Vandal will upgrade and copy to the classic army tactics, so sadly I'm now the weakest again. He also will go for the statue, which is quite interesting. It will be quite late, but at least he has the engineering genius, so the statue is relatively cheap, and with that maybe it's still worth it. Frontisek succeeds, and sadly we can see that there is indeed a bad strength event on top, and it's the refugees. I will lose 1 population, which is bad, but as I said, maybe also not too bad, because I really have a lot of additional population that I get from having all of those yellow tokens, food production, and the ocean liner service. So it's not great, but also hopefully not the end of the world. Frontisek takes the computers for 3 civil actions. He also takes the bro sports, maybe again a little bit of a hate draft, because bro sports would definitely be quite nice for me. And of course still also might be a technology that's nice for himself, but it might also be partly again a hate draft. And then with this, first of all he builds a cannon, is now one of the 2 strongest again, and with this last civil action develops the architecture. At my turn I first of all can use the ocean liner service to increase my population. And I could again maybe do a relatively normal turn potentially, maybe developing military theory, increasing my population 2 more times. Then I can use the 3 additional resources from Maria to build 1 additional knight. Maybe I can take the reserves or something like this. But I think there's a very strong play that I can do. That play will be a little bit risky, it will be in some ways a little bit inefficient, but I think it will be worth it, and that is just going for the red cross. I can take it, I can play the reserves, and I can finish it. So that is just very strong. I get 35 culture for it with that, and I think we also really didn't take a look yet at the overview, which we can maybe just do at after this black text will go away. And we can see that Mario, thanks to having Nostradamus, has still quite a culture lead, and I mean I was at something like 38 at the beginning of my turn, but now I have also 74, so I've catched up to him. I have now quite a culture lead against the other 2 players, and I still have a decent economy, lots of food production, and thanks to the ocean liner service I hopefully will still get a nice amount of population. And so I was hoping that I will be able to survive it. But it's definitely also a bit of a risky play. First of all, it's annoying that I can't really use the additional resource from Maria, but if I want to go for the red cross, there's no way around it. But the most dangerous thing is maybe that I don't have a colonization card in hand. Maybe that wouldn't be the biggest issue, but I sent just a lot of colonization cards away, so also my opponents know about this. Otherwise, maybe they would expect that I have some colonization cards in hand, but like this, they could maybe remember it and think that maybe I don't have redrawn a colonization card. And there could be the danger of a double aggression. If Mario will try an aggression, then I can't defend, and lfrantisek will maybe see that I don't have a colonization card, and he could also go for an aggression. That is of course quite a big risk, and it's maybe questionable if I should take it, but this red crossplay is also definitely quite strong, and at least Mario's only H2 cards in hand, so he can only go for H2 aggressions. Of course there might be some bad ones, especially infiltrate maybe to remove from area, and yeah, so that is dangerous, but I was willing to take the risk because I thought if I can defend now, or not defend, but or if I can manage to make sure that I get enough strength, maybe still build up some nice stuff, then that could just give me the boost that I need to win the game. Otherwise, I would still be quite behind Mario on culture. I could maybe go for another army, maybe try to go for an aggressive play, maybe still build some nice stuff. Maybe that could also work, and then I would not be in danger of a double aggression. But the red crossplay will just give me a big boost in culture. I have a lot of food. Of course, I could also use the food for Maria very nicely, but it's also very nice to just use it in the red cross. And otherwise, maybe one of my opponents could go for it. Though none of them has really that much food that this would be really nice for them, but still, no. At the end, I went for the red cross, but if Mario goes for an aggression now, it could also definitely backfire. And I was really happy to see that he doesn't go for an aggression. Instead, the immigration is revealed, which is not ideal for me. After the refugees, I lose now another population. And now that I have spent that much food on the red cross, it's definitely starting to hurt, losing now another population. But overall, I was just very happy that Mario didn't go for an aggression. He goes for the civil service, takes the mechanized agriculture. It's interesting that he goes for the civil service, because with investing his science into that, it means that he can't go for the oil this turn, and delays that even more. And no, it's just those upgrades to oil are that cheap that maybe it could be worth it. I mean, he's definitely more flexible now with having those additional civil actions, but maybe it could have been better to just upgrade to oil mines now already, but maybe there were some things that he couldn't do then, and maybe he wanted to really build this additional cavalryman. Maybe there's a colony coming that he wants to bid for without losing the classic army tactic or something like this, and with that maybe he rather wanted to go for the civil service. Vandal seeds, the ravages of time are revealed. He will lose the Acropolis, I will lose the Colossus, which is not too bad, though maybe the strength could still be useful for me. lfrantisek will probably lose the pyramids, and Mario the library. Vandal gets a replacement for Robespierre, and he also gets the second copy of military theory, so now he can replace Robespierre with Einstein without being stuck at two military actions. He can develop the military theory, scoring 3 culture with Einstein immediately, and then he can finish the Statue of Liberty so that it doesn't get delayed too much, get some additional culture production out of it, and also of course the yellow tokens are quite nice, and then to get out of corruption he increases his population. And sadly, lfrantisek probably remembered that I already sent a lot of colonization cards away, or maybe he just doesn't have anything better to do with his politics actions. Either way, he goes for this blunder, and sadly, I can't do anything about it. The blunder is successful, and I will lose 4 resources and 3 food. It's definitely annoying, and I thought it could maybe be a little bit annoying, especially losing the food. So I again means maybe that another population will get delayed. But maybe I still have enough resources and stuff left that I can still manage to build up some military and do some nice stuff. lfrantisek will increase his population. He can do this thanks to taking the food away, and thanks to he just took the amount of food that allows him to increase his population again at the next turn. He will go for computers, however he won't go for Bill Gates, which is interesting. Leaves him and computers available for me. I mean, it's now already a little bit into H3, but it's still relatively early, so it's interesting that he leaves this option available for me. I see the impact of progress into the deck here. I will develop the military theory this turn. I will also grab the satellites, so I will hopefully be able to go for quite a nice impact of progress. I'm of course the weakest, but I thought I might be able to build up I might be able to prepare quite nicely for a bunch of impacts, and so I wanted to just start seeding now, even though I'm the weakest. And a Cold War is revealed, so I don't get additional science, but I would have gotten stronger than lfrantisek and Mario anyway this turn, so it's not too bad, but of course the additional science helps them. I can increase my population only one time with the ocean liner service because of having lost the food. meaning, and also with no bro spots being available, the last copy of it, no, it's not that easy for me to use the resource of Maria again. I thought about, of course, about going for tanks, maybe also modern infantry because I have more swordsmen to upgrade, but mainly first I thought about tanks. And the problem with going for tanks or modern infantry is, and I think I thought even more about modern infantry maybe, because 2 upgrades to tanks would give me +6 strength, and then I'm at 26, which is still not enough to defend against Frantisek, and now all of my opponents know that I have no colonization card in hand. But even if I go for modern infantry, I basically have to go for all upgrades to be safe, because even when I go for 3 upgrades, I will be at +9 strength, which is 29. And now that Mario probably knows that I have no defense cards in hand, he could make the decision to sacrifice if he has a really strong aggression, maybe one that would hurt me. And maybe he wouldn't do it, he at least would have to sacrifice an H2 unit. It's definitely also somewhat costly for him, but if I want to be completely safe, I have to upgrade all of my units to modern infantry. I would miss out on a lot of draws. I would also have to take the modern infantry for quite expensive, and at the end I made a decision to handle my military situation differently. And first of all, I also wanted to take computers and Bill Gates. I could also start going for Bill Gates this turn, but I thought about it. But at the end I rather wanted to be safe, and I developed a military theory. Sadly, it means that again I can't really use the resource of Maria. That definitely is annoying, having 3 resources from her available for 2 turns in a row, not really being able to use them. But the military theory gives me some additional strength. Now I have enough strength to defend against Frantisek. I still don't have enough strength to defend against Mario, but compared to going for modern infantry, at least I get 3 draws in. So that maybe makes it already like, if he has a nice event to seed, maybe Raider wants to go for that, and maybe he also doesn't have a nice aggression, because at the turn before he didn't go for an aggression against me. So there is still the danger of getting hit by him, but at least I get 3 draws. I don't have to invest a lot of resource into those upgrades, and I have the military theory, yeah, which in general will just be quite nice, also for the impact of progress. And then with having seeded impact of progress, I also wanted to have 2 satellites. That maybe also might be a nice source to get a little bit of additional strength going. And I wanted to have those tanks. It could just be nice to have the option to maybe upgrade those knights, especially if I should miss out on the air forces. Then I could maybe go for 4 tanks and 4 swordsmen and for 2 classic armies like that to get some additional strength in case I really need it. Again, I was not really hoping that Mario doesn't go for an aggression, or that I draw a defense card. I sadly don't draw a defense card, 2 impacts instead that I maybe will be able to use. And again, it will be very interesting to see if Mario will go for an aggression. And he doesn't go for an aggression, so I was very relieved about that. He goes for a peace treaty with Frantisek instead, which is interesting. And then, especially because it cancels his international trade agreement, so no. But maybe he was a little bit afraid of what Frantisek can do, and maybe thought that with cancelling the Otter Pact, maybe there's a chance that he will accept it, even when he has maybe some hopes. But I mean, he's also the Magic Castle, and it only gives him 1 culture reduction. But maybe he thought that he might not need additional resource any longer. At least he will go for oil now with James Watt. Goes for 1 upgrade, takes the movies, also goes for mechanized agriculture, goes for 1 upgrade there. Now he has enough food to increase his population at the next turn. But it's now also relatively late, and maybe he could have managed to go for this oil a little bit earlier. Vandal offers the military alliance to Frantisek, and I was really afraid of what might happen now, because Frantisek, who went for an aggression before, has now again enough strength so that he can go for an aggression against me, and I can't defend against it. And there's maybe still the danger that, no, I mean, I've only drawn 3 new cards, and my opponents know that that I didn't have a defense card before. So I was really annoyed about this military alliance pact, and I was really afraid that there might now be another aggression from Frantisek. Vandal will go for another lab, will take the Manhattan project. With having that much science production, it will also give him a decent amount of culture, takes the engineering genius, and then upgrades 1 warrior to rifleman. Is now at 33 strength and one of the 2 strongest. And Frantisek luckily doesn't go for an aggression, so that is very nice. Sadly, there's a strength event revealed to international negotiations, and Frantisek will take 3 signs away from me, which might be a little bit annoying. At least I have Maria, she's now very, very important, otherwise it would mean that I can't go for computers with Bill Gates, but thanks to Maria I will still be able to do this at my next turn. Frantisek goes for Steve Jobs. It's probably not a denial pick, but I mean, I have Bill Gates already, so I couldn't go for Steve Jobs anyway to fix my happy faces. So, no, it's definitely no denial pick, but no, again, he takes something that would give happy faces, but of course I couldn't go for it with having Bill Gates, and the second copy of Pro Sports is still not coming down the row. He will go for Steve Jobs replacing Nobel, and he has a lot of science, so maybe he will be able to score a bunch of Nobel Prizes. Going for the democracy will maybe prevent him from going for too many Nobel Prizes, but of course he gets more civil actions, additional culture production, so democracy should still be nice. He also gets endowment and modern infantry, builds 1 more cannon, is now at 36 strength. Now it's my turn. I see the impact of architecture. I was really afraid that one of those impacts might be impact of happiness, but the Pro Sports are on the row. I can't do that much about it anyway, and so I just wanted to continue starting some of those impacts in. With going for Bill Gates now, I was hoping that I might be able to build up a nice architecture. There will also be some H2 events revealed before those impacts, so hopefully I will have a little bit of time to prepare for this impact. And now, so I seeded this into the deck. And my impact is revealed, the impact of wonders, which is definitely quite decent. It's not a big difference, but I actually, with having finished the Red Cross, gain even the most culture out of it. I increase my population 1 time normally, 1 time with the ocean liner service, getting for the last time some additional value out of Maria. I can also finally use her resource again to build this additional knight. Then I switch to Bill Gates and I go for those 2 lab upgrades. That also just gets me out of corruption, so that all works out relatively nicely. And now, then I have 3 civil actions left. I could make sure that I can defend with maybe deleting something and building another knight. Probably deleting a mine, but I didn't like it too much because there are a lot of interesting cards that I could take, and it would cost me my mine. And at least I have enough strength to defend against potential aggressions from Mario or Vandal. Mario could of course sacrifice, but now I will get another 3 draws in, and sacrificing an H2 unit just for some hope that he might get an aggression. I don't think he would do it. And Frantisek, he definitely could again go for an aggression, but the turn before he didn't go for it. Meaning either he's afraid now that I have a defense card, or he doesn't have one, and he did draw 3 new cards of course. But I thought I will stay vulnerable for 1 more turn, instead of deleting a mine and missing out on 1 civil action to take some cards. And now it's really the question, what do I want to take? First I thought that I will just take Revolutionary Radiant Air Forces. Like this I have enough science to go for Air Forces, I definitely should be very safe. However, I also thought that I really wanted to have those movies, but if I take movies and Air Forces, then I don't have enough science to go for Air Force anyway. Why did I want to have movies? With the last copy first of all, and I will have now a lot of resources with Bill Gates. I have this architecture, so I might be able to just build some movies, also for the impact of architecture that is coming. And I still don't know if I will get this copy of Professional Sports. And the movies might just also help me for the happy phase. Of course I can build religions, but with having an open building limit of 3, I can only build 2 religions for 2 more happy phases. And I might have enough resource to build 2 religions, maybe also something like 2 movies, and then at least I can prepare somewhat decently for the impact of happiness. And of course also get some nice culture production out of the movies. So I really thought that those movies could be nice. Also the last wonder in the deck is the Hollywood. Probably I won't be able to build a lot of movies anti-Hollywood, but who knows, maybe if there's something like the economic progress coming, it could be potentially possible that I might be able to go for somewhat decent Hollywood. So that definitely wasn't the main reason why I wanted to have the movies. No, but as I said, if I take movies and Air Forces, I can't go for the Air Forces, so no, maybe it's just better to go for Revolutionary Radiant Air Forces. But the question is, how dangerous would it be to not take the Air Forces? And how nice would be the Air Force for my opponents? So of course, if I take this, still the 2 opponents after me could go for the Air Force anyway. Mario has somewhat, um, he has some military potential, but the good news is he doesn't have enough science to go for air forces, so that makes him a lot less threatening. He could go for another classic army tactic, could maybe also sacrifice with the Meiji Castle, but with having tanks and satellites in hand and getting a revolutionary idea, I might also be able to go for a decent defense with having also a lot of resources saved up without without having the air forces. Vandal has enough science for air forces, could also build one, but building one might also not be really enough to threaten something, and Frontisek might have some interesting tactics, but he really is not a lot of military action, so he can't declare war and build a lot of stuff. So I thought it's maybe not that dangerous, that there might be some big war things happening. Mario might be the most dangerous, but in order to build 3 more units, he also would have to destroy a bunch of stuff, and if this is the way to go for him, is maybe also questionable. So I thought that for one turn, maybe I don't really need the Air Force to defend myself, and as an alternative to taking Air Force and Revolutionary Idea, I could just take both Revolutionary Ideas and movies, and then I also take a bunch of cards. There will only be 11 cards left, so at my next turn I should have the option to end the age, and then if I survive this one turn, without getting declared or without a war being declared against me, then at the following turns, hopefully my opponents won't have any chance to go for war. And so, in order to get those movies and also the revolutionary ideas, which might allow me to go for some Nobel Prizes, I thought this is just a very nice value, and I don't really need the air forces. There is maybe some danger, and there's still, of course, the danger of an aggression from Frontisek, so I am definitely not completely safe, but I was hoping that there won't be anything bad happening. And I just took both of those revolutionary ideas and the movies. I draw another war impact of culture, who knows? Maybe if I go for some movies, it could be an impact which could be potentially nice. Impact of balance is revealed. I was mostly happy that it is not impact of happiness, but I would have been able to increase my balance by a bit relatively in the near future, so it's also not the ideal impact for me, and I get the least culture out of it, but at least it's not the worst case impact with impact of happiness. Mario will increase his population, that allows him to take Mandela for cheap. He will go for some more upgrades with James Watt. Maybe those will also be nice for some impacts, but now there's really not a lot of time left for him to use all of those resource production, but yeah, might still be nice for some impacts. He switches to Mandela and then takes the urban growth. And he has movies, so at the next turn he can maybe just go for 2 movies or something like this. Vandal, Seeds, and the Wealthy territory is revealed, and I was very, very happy to see. I definitely didn't want to bid for it, to not get even weaker. And I was very happy to see that Frantisek is able to win it. Of course, maybe it will help him, but with sending the swordsman away, he's now at 33 strength, and now it means that he can't go for an aggression against me. So I was quite happy about this colony, and about not being in danger of an aggression any longer. Vandal goes for the engineering, also develops the air forces, going Nobel Prize, also a bunch of culture with Einstein, plays the reserves, builds 2 stages of the Manhattan Project, and is able to finish it for 11. Culture is now the strongest, maybe threatening an aggression, and the next turn can maybe go for 1 or even 2 more technologies, depending on which ones are available. Frontisek will see it, and a crime wave is revealed. I will lose 3 culture, but there could have been maybe worse events, so it's not too bad. Frontisek will go for the organized religion. He also goes for the journalism, scoring Nobel Prize, growing a lot of culture with Steve Jobs. And he goes for the Air Force, is even destroying a religion in order to build another computer. Maybe he wants to be able to go for another Nobel Prize the next one, which he will now be able to do with having the Bro Sports in hand. And then he plays the Endowment of the Arts for 6 additional culture. And when we take a look at the culture score of my opponents, we can see that both of my opponents have, Vandal and Frontisek, have catched up quite a bit. I mean, Mario had quite a lead, but both Vandal and Frontisek, with having those science leaders, are not that much behind any longer, and also have almost catch up to me. I will get a little bit of an additional production at my turn, but I definitely don't have a big lead any longer. At my turn, I could potentially see an impact, But impact of agriculture might be relatively neutral or even better for Mario, who just went for mechanized agricultures. Impact of culture could be possible, but I would also commit myself to investing heavily into movies, which might be nice anyway, but I'm making myself less flexible. And the impact of population, I ended up making the decision not taking the bro sports. We will talk about this at my turn. My first instinct was to just go for it immediately. But in case I don't get it, and maybe I don't, yeah, then it might also not be the greatest impact. And also one big reason is, of course, that the impact of progress is in here, and I will develop the satellites at my turn. And with all of that, I rather offer this international tourism to Frantisek. I could have also offered it to Mario, and it's really close, because Mario has more culture, but Frantisek has both have seeded in the same amount of impacts, but Frantisek I thought is a little bit better prepared for more impacts, and also the impacts that impact of progress is actually, which was seeded in by me, is not that bad for Mario. So I could have potentially offered it to both. Also, the tournament standings split a bit of apart here, because as I said at the beginning of the video, I ideally want to win my group, and then Mario won the first game. Maybe it's then a bit nicer to get this pact with Frantisek. But I thought that both of them have still a chance to win the game, so it was a very close decision which player I should offer this international tourism pact to. But with getting the culture reduction from Frantisek, I will maybe have a chance to make the impact of culture work, potentially even when Mario builds some movies. So that's also an argument, and I went with this international tourism pact with Frantisek at the end. At my turn, as I said, first I thought about going for pro sports and maybe building one, finally being nicely prepared for the impact of happiness, but I also want to develop the satellites, and I can maybe develop pro sports, play revolutionary, develop, play revolutionary idea, develop satellites, build one pro sports, but I can't do anything else, meaning I won't get any additional culture reduction. And it just felt very expensive to do this. Might get punished if there's the impact of happiness, which might definitely be possible. I don't have knowledge about it. But there's also still a chance that I will get a pro sports at the next turn, and with going for movies, I will be able to at least increase my culture production this turn. I can go for movies, I can play both of the revolutionary ideas in order to develop satellites for the impact of progress, also scoring a Nobel Prize. Then I increase my population one time normally, one time with the ocean liner service. I also really want to build one knight this turn so that I am not in danger of an aggression. Finally, I can end my turn again without being in danger of an aggression. Even Vandal, who is 46 strength, has no chance to go for an aggression against me for a successful one. And then ideally, I would just go for 2 movies. The problem is, if I go for 2 movies, I don't end the age, which of course could be considered also nice for me, because I have a decent economy, and maybe I will be able to do some nice stuff with an additional turn. But I kind of felt like maybe I should rather not go for an additional turn. I thought I have some decent chances. I will get some additional culture production, I will get a Nobel Prize, I will get a Bill Gates bonus, I will be able to prepare for some impacts with my last turn. Even if I miss out on the pro sports, I will be able to go for some happy phases with building religions and movies. So I thought I have some decent chances to win, and if there's an additional turn, it just gets harder to predict what will happen. I have a decent economy, but also Mario has now really a lot of stuff going, and additional turn would definitely also help him a lot. He can then maybe build even more movies, maybe can even do something with the Hollywood, and I think that was also the main reason why I really didn't want, why I really wanted to make sure to end the age, because I thought Mario definitely might be able to do a lot of stuff with his resources then, and also with the yellow cards that he has in hand. So I really wanted to end the age. Sadly, that means I can't go for second movie, so compared to the pro sports play, I only gained 4 additional culture reduction, but at least I gained some additional culture reduction, and I can maybe also just build more movies at the next turn and 1 religion. I just have enough resources for that to build maybe 2 movies, 1 religion at the next turn. And if I invest resources into bro sports and don't have the option to do this, might still be nice if I should be able to get a bro sports to go for bro sports. That also helps for a lot of impacts, but I wasn't willing to take it for 3 civil actions here. And now I have to take one last card, and it's actually an interesting decision that I took the rockets here. I mean, first, the mechanized agriculture is probably the technology that potentially maybe has more use cases for me. Maybe I can even do something with the impact of agriculture. So if I get some happy faces, the impact of population will be quite a nice impact anyway. So, and that is probably not a reason, but still, maybe I can prepare for potential. No, impact of balance is out already. So for the impacts, it's not that great. So yeah, probably I also don't really need a mechanized agriculture anyway. But it's a cheap technology. And it might also potentially help Vandal. But I came to the conclusion that it's actually nice for me if it helps Vandal, because I wanted to make sure that I have the best chance possible to get this Pro Sport still. That gives me more option to prepare for impacts, and also with having the rockets in hand now, I would have just enough science to go for rockets and Pro Sports, preparing for another Nobel Prize, or going for another Nobel Prize. And yeah, so Mario has mechanized agriculture, so he can't take this copy of mechanized agriculture away. He has a lot of reserves in hand, might be able to build some movies, so he might be able to use a lot of civil actions on his own turn, meaning he doesn't have a lot of civil actions maybe anyway to grab some cards. So I thought there might be a chance that Mario doesn't take those rockets, and he can't take the mechanized agriculture. At Vandal's turn, he has 15 science, and he could still go for Nobel Prize if mechanized agriculture and rockets are available for him. But if I take the mechanized agriculture instead of those rockets, then there will only be a rocket available, and he could still go for Nobel Prize if he goes for rockets and Pro Sports. But if I take the rockets and leave the mechanized agriculture, and Mario can't deny the mechanized agriculture, and if he maybe doesn't deny the rockets, then Vandal can go for Nobel Prize with those two technologies, which will be available for cheap for him, while the Pro Sports probably will be available for 2 civil actions for him, maybe even for 3 in case Mario really doesn't take a lot of cards from the row. So Vandal has the option to go for Nobel Prize while still having more civil actions left, and he might be able to use a lot of those civil actions on his civilization. So I thought with taking the rockets and not taking the mechanized agriculture, I make it more likely that I will get a Pro Sports, because Vandal has a nice way to get his Nobel Prize going in case Mario doesn't take the rockets. Of course, you could argue that it helps Vandal, and it's definitely true, but I thought that Vandal might be the opponent which has the least chances or which has the worst position. He is definitely still in the game. He's not far behind in culture. He is also prepared for some impacts, but overall he is maybe not as nicely prepared for the impacts as Mario and lfrantisek, and so I thought he is probably the worst position, and if it helps him a little bit, then that would be fine for me as long as I get the Pro Sports. No, I could have maybe also thought about offering the international tourism to Vandal, but I thought he might reject it, because I would just get a lot more culture out of this than him, and maybe he still sees some chance that he could overtake me. So yeah, and because of that I went for this pact with lfrantisek at the end. Yeah, so that's the reason why I took the rockets. I wasn't really sure if that really will make a difference, but I thought maybe it could indeed make a difference. I can keep a bunch of cards in hand. I will draw some cards. Impact of Strength maybe could be interesting. Then the age ends. Mario will increase his population. He can go for movies. He can play both reserves for food. And he can go for another movie, as now at 15 culture production, gets 1 additional extra from Mandela. And he doesn't take the rockets, which could be interesting for me. Instead, he rather wants to deny the multimedia from his opponents. And now I was really interested to see if my plan works out, if Vandal will go now for the Nobel Prize with mechanized agriculture and rockets. First of all, he will try an armed intervention against Mario, and Mario can defend, but he has to sacrifice a unit, which will be nice, because impact of population might be the impact that I seed into the deck at the end, and he loses 1 population now for this impact. Vandal will go for the mechanized agriculture, he will go for rockets, he will develop both of those technologies for the Nobel Prize, and then he can still use all of his civil actions, building one theology, increasing his population, building a warrior, increasing his population again, preparing for impact of population, which at the end might be in there, and he doesn't take the pro sports because he had the option to go for those two technologies in the Nobel Prize, which are available. And those technologies were available for one for him. lfrantisek has already this pro sports in hand, so that means I will get this copy of pro sports at my turn and I will be able to score a Nobel Prize, so I was very happy that this indeed worked out at the end. Then lfrantisek seeds. Sadly, the impact of architecture is revealed. I would have improved this quite a lot at my next turn, but I mean that was the risk with seeding it in earlier. And like this, sadly, I am even together with Vandal the worst at this impact, but it's in general not a big swing, and no player gains a lot out of it, a lot more than the other players. lfrantisek can go for another Nobel Prize, scores a lot of culture with Steve Jobs, plays the patriotism, upgrades one arena, upgrades some units, and then takes the oil. Then it's my turn, and I really have a lot of different options to prepare for the impacts and also to then play some different impacts. For example, if I go for 2 arenas, I'm the strongest and I could see the impact of strength. I could, or impact of population will also be very fine. I definitely want to see it. Of course, there's the danger of an impact of happiness, but those impacts are too strong. I have to seed them. Impact of culture potentially could also work. I came to the conclusion that Mario and lfrantisek are my biggest contenders here. And I also came to the conclusion that lfrantisek might even be the bigger contender. Because he has seeded now this one additional impact. And in general, there are more impacts where he is better prepared for. There definitely, I mean, it's not clear or something like this, but I had a feeling that lfrantisek is a little bit better. For example, he just upgraded this arena and went for all of those upgrades to modern infantry. I thought that impact of competition might be in there, which will be a lot better for him than for Mario. So I thought that might be one impact in there. And I also thought that maybe there's the impact of science in there, with lfrantisek having that much science production, and it also would be a very big impact for him and really bad for Mario. So I just thought lfrantisek has some very nice impacts, and he might be the bigger contender after all, and it also influenced my decision for seeding, because I will actually get stronger at my turn. And the strongest, so I could have gone for impact of strength, which would give me plus 15 culture against Mario, but only plus 10 against lfrantisek. But I will end up seeding the impact of population. That will give me only plus 10 against Mario, but plus 12 against lfrantisek. So the impact of strength overall might be the better choice, but I really thought that lfrantisek might be the player who has the best chances to catch up to me, and I wanted to play an impact in that will really give me the most points against him, and at least it also gives me plus 10 against Mario. Also, my turn potentially might change depending on what card will be revealed. For example, if impact of competition will already be revealed, and maybe there's a case to not invest that heavily into pro sports, and then if I would see the impact of strength, I would have already committed to display, while seeing the impact of population maybe keeps me a little bit more flexible. For that I also kind of want to fix my happy faces, but maybe I also will be able to do this with just going for movies and the religions. So I see the impact of population, the impact of harmony is opened. Sadly, that's also an impact that I would improve during my turn. I would probably get 20 out of it after my turn, but it's maybe also not too bad. There could have been worse ones. In the worst case scenario, that impact of happiness is revealed, is not happening, and I was also mostly happy about this. Because overall I thought I might have a nice position, I might have some nice impacts coming, and I will get into the final impacts with a little bit of a lead, not a big lead, but a little bit of a lead, and so I mainly was happy that impact of happiness isn't revealed. I can increase my population 2 times, get a lot of population for the impact of population. I definitely want to go for a Nobel Prize, there might also be impact of technology in there. And then the question is what to build. I could potentially build some movies, I can really do a variety of stuff, and at the end I went for 1 bro sports, 1 computer. The Bros Balls will just be very nice for a potential impact of happiness. As I said, I thought that Frantisek might have seeded impact of competition in there with improving it that much at his last turn, so the Bros Balls might also give 3 culture for that. Then I built a lab. I also could just build a movie. The lab will give me 3 save culture, the movie 4 save culture. But I thought the impact of science could potentially be in there, and if this is the case, I gain 5 more culture now. Vandal gains 5 culture less. Sadly, I won't be able to overtake Frantisek, but I can at least make it that he only gains 5 more culture out of the impact of science than me, and just because of that, I thought that building this lab might be worth it over building an additional movie. And then with my last worker, I could do a lot of different stuff. Sadly, I'm missing 1 resource to build a second movie now. And if I would be able to do this, I would definitely do it. But, no, I don't have enough resource for it. I could also just build 1 religion and maybe 1 more unit, getting +1 for impact of competition at least, and then getting 1 save culture reduction. But at the end, I just went for another bro sports, and I can actually still build a swordsman, so like this again, +4 for potential impact of competition. I have full happy faces now, which wouldn't be the case with going for the religion. I miss out on the 1 save culture, but I just thought, no, that for impact of happiness and competition, one of them might be in there, and then already building another bro sports might be better. So I'm actually the strongest now. I could have seeded impact of strength, but because of the reason that Frantisek might be the bigger contender, I went for the impact of population. Then that's the end of my turn, and we can take a look at the overall culture before the final impact evaluation. We can see that Mario is in the lead with 1 culture before me, Frantisek is 3 culture behind me, and Vandal is 5 culture behind Frantisek, so really close finish. But we shouldn't forget that I will get a Brigades bonus for +9, so with that I will go into the final impacts with a bit of a lead. I also have some nice impacts, so I was hoping that I have good chances to win, but it's definitely still everything possible, and it might be really close, and it will be very interesting to see how this final impacts will influence the standings. The first impact is the impact of happiness. It is indeed in there, and I can be really happy that it wasn't revealed earlier. Now I gain a 16 culture out of it, as well as Mario and Frantisek, while Vandal only gets 12 culture out of it. The impact of technology is revealed. That is a nice surprise for me, because I gain actually 24 culture out of it. Maybe it was seeded by Vandal, he at least gets 20 culture out of it, but it's a very nice impact, and no, that definitely improves my position. Then there is indeed the impact of competition in there, so those bro balls really paid off, and Frantisek still gets more culture out of it than me, is now only 6 culture behind me, and overtakes Mario, and Vandal also only gets 9 culture out of it, so he's 11 culture behind Mario now. We have the impact of progress, that was seeded by me, it gives me +22, +16 for Frantisek, +18 for Mario, and +16 for Vandal, so nice impact for me against my opponents, and Mario catches up a little bit to Frantisek. And the last impact is the impact of population, +22 for me, +10 for Frantisek, +12 for Mario, and +18 for Vandal. So Mario again catches up 2 culture against Frantisek, but it is not enough for him to overtake him, and at the end I win this game, even with a little bit of a lead. The impact's relatively nice for me after all, and no, it's really close between all of my opponents, and Frantisek stays at the 2nd place. And with that, I also was right about my assumption that Frantisek might be the bigger contender. So even though I seeded impact in, which was a little bit worse for him than for Mario, he still manages to finish at the 2nd place, which I was overall happy about, because it means that that Mario doesn't score more points for the standings. I wasn't too much concerned about it, because there's still many games to come, but it's maybe still a little bit of a factor. So, yeah. I'm of course very happy that I managed to win this game at the end. It was a little bit of an interesting game, because I had this nice iron production, and then I knew that those nice H2 wonders are coming. I set up for them, and then I went for the ocean liner service, even though I already had a lot of food production, knowing that Maria and Red Cross are coming. And then I even won the vast territory too, and I really had a lot of population, a lot of food, invested this into the Red Cross. But in H3 I very often was vulnerable to an aggression. That definitely wasn't great, and also at one point got punished for it, but I could have gotten punished even more, so that's definitely nice that this didn't happen. But the Red Cross also gave me a big boost, and then I got Bill Gates, and at the end I managed to score enough points to win this game. So now, quite an interesting game. I'm very happy that I managed to win it. And now that the second game is over, we can also take a quick look at the standings. And at the moment, only the two 4-player games have finished, and both Mario and I have had one win and one third place, so we are both at 7 points, and Frantisek had 2 second places, so he's at 6 points, so it's very close at the moment. Vandal didn't have the best start, he lost both of the 4-player games, so it will be difficult for him to come back, but there are still 6 games to come for him, so he definitely still has chances to come back and to advance to the next stage. No, but it's quite close, so everything is possible still. No, and of course I would just like to win my next games in order to maybe move up to the first place. But no, those opponents definitely aren't playing bad, so that won't be an easy task. But I will give my best, and I hope you're looking forward to the next games. Yeah, and then I hope it was an interesting game for you. Definitely a little bit of a special game with with having that much food lying around and the ocean liner service. No, but anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video and then have a nice time and see you in the next video.